The news can feel like this constant, overwhelming flood, right? But what if we just hit pause? What if we took a microscope to one single day's newspaper? That's exactly what we're doing today. We're going to break down one paper to see what it really tells us about the world we're living in.
So picture this. It's 100 years from now. Some historian digs up just one newspaper from October 4th, 2025. What would they think about us? What would that one single artifact tell them about our biggest hopes, our deepest fears, our most intense conflicts? That's the question we're trying to answer. So we did it. We took a deep dive into that day's Washington Post. And what we found, hiding right there under the big headlines, wasn't just one story. It was a world being pulled apart by three huge competing forces. Let's get into them. First up, technology. That incredible, and yes, sometimes terrifying double-edged sword. On the very same day, this paper showed technology as both this amazing source of hope and a source of some pretty serious new dangers. And this really frames the whole conflict perfectly. On one side, you've got this incredible hope, using tech to create new life, to give people access to things they never had before. And on the other side, you've got all the risks, the fights over censorship, and how easily all the so-called safeguards get tossed aside. Let's start with the hope, because this is pretty amazing. There's a company in Mexico testing out an AI-driven robotic system for in vitro fertilization, or IVF. Now, the goal here is to take a procedure that can cost tens of thousands of dollars and make it way more affordable for the 1 in 6 people around the world who deal with infertility. And this quote, wow, this just shows you the human side of it all. It's from a patient, Noemi Pichardo, who's 22 weeks pregnant because of this experimental AI system. For her, after struggling for so long, this piece of technology didn't feel artificial. It felt like a miracle. But then, in that exact same newspaper, you see the flip side of the coin. OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, announced new parental controls. The idea was to make it safer for teenagers, to shield them from some of the risks of AI. Sounds like a good thing, right? Well, maybe not so fast. The newspaper's own tech columnist, Jeffrey Fowler, decided to test those new controls out. And his conclusion? He broke them. In minutes. All he had to do was log out and make a new account. The promise of safety just kind of evaporated, showing how hard it is to actually protect young users. And the whole thing gets even messier when the government steps in. The paper also reported that Apple took an app called IceBlock out of its store. Why? Because the Justice Department demanded it. This app let users report on immigration and customs enforcement activity, and its removal just kicked off this huge debate. So, is tech a tool for freedom or a tool for control? The answer from this one day of news seems to be, yep, it's both. Okay, let's move on to our second major tension. Because beyond just tech, the newspaper shows this deep, profound struggle for the very soul of our most important institutions. We're talking universities, the media, even government itself. So, a huge story on this day was a proposal from the Trump administration to a handful of elite universities. And the deal they offered was, honestly, pretty simple. Adopt a bunch of our preferred policies and we'll make sure you get priority for federal funding. It's a really direct attempt to shape higher ed from the top down. And when you look at the actual terms, they're incredibly specific. It's everything from freezing tuition to capping the number of international students. They want to mandate the SAT and require single-sex bathrooms. This isn't just a gentle suggestion. It's a full-blown policy agenda they're pushing. And of course, you get this really strong pushback from people like Lawrence Summers. He's basically saying, look, elite universities have their problems, for sure. But this kind of government arm twisting crosses a really fundamental line. It goes right after the whole idea of academic freedom. And hey, this isn't just happening on college campuses. The same newspaper reports a huge shakeup in the media. The new owners of CBS News are about to name Bari Weiss, the founder of the Free Press, as a top editor. That move, plus the fact they spent $150 million buying her publication, is apparently causing a ton of anxiety inside the CBS newsroom about where their journalism is headed. And all of this is playing out against this backdrop of really intense political division. The paper also had a poll on the Virginia governor's race, showing the Democrat with a pretty big lead. You combine that with stories about a government shutdown, and you start to see this picture of a country where these ideological fights for control are happening everywhere. All right, for our third and final tension, we're going to zoom in a little. We're moving away from the big picture of tech and politics and looking at something more personal. Because this newspaper also gave us this powerful glimpse into the human heart, showing these moments of deep personal crisis right next to these just incredible acts of compassion. First, we meet a woman named Jackie Lewis. She lost her son to a fentanyl overdose. Now she's raising his daughter, and she's trying to get a piece of the huge legal settlements from the opioid companies. Her words just capture this raw desperation, this feeling of being left behind by the system after going through something no one should ever have to. And this number, this just makes it all so painfully real. $14,000. After using up her retirement money trying to save her son, she had to put his funeral on a credit card. It's just a gut punch reminder of how these huge national crises land on individual families. And then the paper reports on another absolutely horrific crisis. A gunman filled with hate for the church attacked a worship service in Michigan. 4 people were killed. 8 others were wounded. It is just a story of senseless violence. But what happened next? This is what makes this story so unbelievable. In the middle of their own grief, their own trauma, this community did something absolutely remarkable. They didn't just raise money for the victims' families. They started a fundraiser for the family of the man who attacked them. And just look at the result. Over 8,500 people donated more than $350,000. In the face of this unimaginable violence, they responded with this radical compassion. They chose to take care of a widow and her son, even though they were the family of their attacker. It's just an incredible contrast. So after all that, after digging through this one day's news, what did we actually learn? What does this single piece of our history, this one newspaper, tell us about the world on October 4th, 2025? Well, it shows us a world that is being pulled in completely opposite directions. Technology is this powerful tool for both creation and control. Our most important institutions have become these battlegrounds for who gets to be in charge. And on the most basic human level, we're just caught in this constant tug of war between devastating crises and incredible compassion. You know, this one day in the news doesn't really give us a final answer. What it does is leave us with a question. In a world defined by all these powerful tensions, what's going to win out in the end? Is it the forces trying to tear us apart? Or is it the incredible acts of compassion that prove we can still find a way to come together?